Today's video is going to be about Immich, which is, as they bill it, a high-performance self-hosted photos and video backup solution. It's an open source solution that you can host yourself. It is one of the newer ones, and I've been holding off a little bit doing a video about this because about 6-7 months ago I really didn't feel it was even ready for sort of prime time yet. There were a couple of features that for me it wasn't really going to do it for my hosting. And I did do a video a couple of months ago comparing Piwigo with Photo Prism, and I'll put a link at the top right of this video as well to that video, which is worth having a look at because I'm going to use a little bit of context from that video in comparing this to Piwigo specifically, for example. So the topics of today's video, I'm going to cover sort of briefly what are some of the key features that are present at the moment with Immich, which make it very useful and nice to use. I'm going to cover also a slide with some potential shortcomings. Now, this isn't largely in comparison to Piwigo, but remember also that this video I'm doing in December 23. So as Immich says, they're under active development and there's a lot of features being built in and changed. So, this might also be very different again in 6 months' time. Well, I'd certainly hope so. And then I'm going to cover connecting to external libraries. For example, I've got here Piwigo because I'm going to be showing my own photo instance, which is why I'll probably be blurring maybe a few of the photos out. But the reason why is because I've set up Immich for myself using the Docker install, and I have attached it and pointed it to my existing Piwigo photos, which is about a good 13,000 photos, which are currently hosted on my Piwigo site. So both are active. And I'll just talk a little bit about some of the implications around that, what it does do and what it doesn't do. And this should sort of work for any other large repository of photos you've got that you're not actually uploading directly into Immich, because that can actually take a lot of bandwidth and time. Then I'll just do the demo, obviously, of my hosting, show you some of the features of what it does and how you use it. And I'll end off sort of as usual, also going through some menu setting options that there are. During the demo, I will also just show one or two aspects of the Piwigo installation just to sort of contrast them, I think, as well. So on the features side, its biggest claim to fame, I would say, is its sort of Google Photos look and feel, including the mobile apps for iOS and for Android. It certainly has a very similar look and feel, and I think that's what's made it very, very popular. It's a nice sort of modern look and feel. It's also optionally got a backup option for your phone apps for photos and videos. So you can activate that if you wish to, just like Google Photos has got. The other thing is it's very responsive. It does, I think, when it installs, it was the main server app, a microservices app. I think it's a Redis container, which is the caching and so on. There's a machine learning container and a database container. But despite all that, it actually is very fast and responsive. And what I'll be demoing today is my website, which is actually hosted physically in London from the southern tip of South Africa, where I'm actually accessing it. So it'll give you an idea across that link what it's like. The other thing it's got is similar to Google Photos again, is a sort of a memories feature. So looking as at today, it will show you certain photos from 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 17 years ago, whatever the case is related to today. It's got facial recognition as well, so it is doing groupings of the photos based on faces, and I found it pretty accurate. The only thing it wasn't always matching correctly was the baby photos. I found that from about toddler upwards, it's done a pretty good job matching. I sometimes just had to merge the baby photos into the main photo, for that face. And there is a merge that you can do, and you can also choose which direction it merges. Does it merge from the one group into the other group or vice versa? Then on the shared album side, you've certainly got, by default, everything is private to yourself as the user, but you can share albums, and there are sort of two main ways to share here. The one is, well, actually three ways probably, you think about it, but you can share with other registered users like friends and family and that sort of thing. Then they will see the shared albums. You can also create a shared link with or without a password and with or without expiry of that shared link. That shared link can then be in theory sent to friends and family, or it can be sent to social media sites if necessary. You can also optionally even let people upload if they've got the link. So there's quite a bit of potential around that, in fact. But there are one or two features that don't work. For example, those people accessing that way cannot see slideshows, and they cannot see the face recognition, even for the faces that they do see, which is a bit sad. I'd hope they add that. And then there's also a thing called partner share. So effectively there you'll choose one of the other registered users as your partner, and it seems to be the only option there really is you share everything or nothing sort of thing. So it's I think that's why it's actually a partner share. Then it does help sorting of albums. So you can sort albums by date of creation, last photo updated, that sort of thing. It also has geolocation from the geotags of the various photos, and that will obviously then show you photos on a global map. And also if you're viewing the individual photos, it will show you the location where the photos are taken. It has natural language processing search, so you can just type whatever you're looking for in plain language. When importing using this CLI importing tool, it will also recognize any .xmp, which are sort of sidecar files which have got additional EXIF information inside, and it should then populate that information when you are doing an import using CLI. I'm not sure if the upload option does the same thing, but I know specifically for the CLI batch importing it does so. Then it's got object detection, so this will help you search for things like cars or blue objects or sky or whatever the case is. It's also got a duplicate detection on upload. So if you are not sure and you've selected a whole bunch of photos again in your upload, it will skip the duplicates by default. It's also got a very nice progress pop-up for the uploading of photos, which is quite nifty. And then just the last point I want to mention is, yes, it's a Docker installation. Well, that's the recommended installation anyway, and that's the one I followed. I mostly found the installation went perfectly well. The only problem I had was trying to get my domain name recognized, and that actually had nothing to do specifically with Immich. It had more to do with the fact that my Nginx proxy, which does my reverse proxying, was on a default network, but Immich, on its own, if you just leave it as is, it creates its own default network, which is separated from that. So therefore, my reverse proxy wasn't actually working and showing it. All I really did was I made one change, or I made a change, should I say, to the Docker Compose files, so that it instead joined the same network as the Nginx proxy was on. And after that, recreating the stack meant everything just worked 100%. But it took me a little while to figure that out. I will actually share a link below as well to my Docker Compose file, just in case anybody wants to sort of see. Some of the specifics won't be applicable to you, but it does sometimes help just trying to sort out a problem or some syntax issue that you've got. Then on the shortfall side, yes, I know it looks like a long list, but it's just things that I have been using more specifically on Piwigo, and although Piwigo might look a little bit dated in terms of its interface, it's pretty powerful still, and for certain of these things, Piwigo is still going to be doing these things, which Immich at this stage during December 2023 is not doing all of these things. So one important thing for me was there are no nested albums or sub-albums. Everything is on the same level album. So you can't, for example, create a hiking collection or a places collection and then have a whole bunch of sub-albums underneath that related to it, which is obviously very useful if you want to publicly share albums and let people navigate through groups or collections of albums. I think there was a request for this, but as of now, it's not something that is present with Immich. It's not a showstopper for most people, I don't think, because you can maybe also even create this later when the functionality comes in. Then the other thing that is a little bit problematic is with inside of an album, the photos, there is no option to change the sort order manually or resort or anything like that. It is by default just sorted on the newest first. So what I find sometimes is if I've edited or made some other changes or updated, for a collection of photos, maybe I've updated various photos. I can't tell it in a sort of a story as I want it to appear. It's only going to appear in the chronological order that you took the photos. So that is a little bit of a a bit of a problem, and I think there were also requests for that to be changed, that people could do manual sort order, which I do quite a bit in Piwigo. I do rearrange my photos quite often and cluster them together logically for presentation, not necessarily how I took the photos. The other thing that could be for many a showstopper is there's no public albums. So you can share a link to an album and a person can go directly to that link and view inside that album, but there is no public view of Immich where they can see, oh, you've got 3 public albums that you've shared, and anybody can just click in and go and navigate, through those albums or sub-albums. That's not an option at the moment. It's very much only if you've got a link. It's better for security probably, but yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of my albums that are actually public albums, so for me that's a little bit of a problem at this stage, although you've got to weigh it up against the lovely look and feel and so on of Immich. Another option, once in a while I do actually have to replace a photo in place. In other words, I've already got that photo uploaded, I've given it descriptions, it's got all the stuff at once and everything that's in the album, but for whatever reason I've done an edit, or I've got I've discovered I've got a better photo of it that I found later in the roll somewhere. You can't just upload it as an actual in-place replacement, which Piwigo does also handle. So, there's something else. Another thing which is a little bit odd, and it can be fixed, I suppose, in the future, is there is no pop-up or mouse over captions. So when you are moving your mouse over the images, as I said, you're only seeing the actual image, or the video will maybe play as you hover over it, but it's not showing you the description in any form at all, which is a little bit sad as well, maybe. I'm not actually finding any compression or resizing on upload. Like I said, with Piwigo again, you can set in a max size that you want, and it'll do a resize on the upload on the fly and save it at that size. So, that's another little bit of an issue. It means you could actually take up a lot more space maybe than you want to. I do know that with certain formats like HEIC, I think, and 1 or 2 others, it'll upload almost anything. Some of them will be converted to JPEG and so on. But, in that case, JPEG is a bigger format, so it's going to take up even more space than HEIC. Then, yes, you don't have any way of setting a copyright per photo or anything, although you can have downloads by anyone or prevent downloads. The fact is you can't show a copyright notice per photo or per album. I suppose you could have it for your whole site or in the album's description maybe, but again, just something that Piwigo did actually offer. Then on the EXIF metadata imports, what I'm finding is that I uploaded a photo that I did in Digicam, and I'd actually put in a title, I'd put a description, it had location, camera type, and a couple of other things. But what I noticed is all that really got read when it was imported or uploaded was the location and the camera type and the camera stats, should I say, the f-stop of the lens and that sort of thing. It wasn't including at all the title or the caption or the description at all. And the same thing, obviously, when I'd imported from the external library. It was very much importing the same thing, or should I say not importing some of the same thing. I was really hoping, because it would mean that I could actually do my photos in Digicam like I often used to for Piwigo, put all the titles in, the captions, the tags, all that stuff, and then just do a bulk upload to an album, a new album in Piwigo, and it was done and dusted, ready to go. So just bear that in mind as well. At this stage, it's not importing that. I saw there was a request logged, though, for some custom metadata imports. It didn't really talk much about what I was looking for, but that's just something else to bear in mind. As I mentioned here as well, from Digicam, Digicam is just a great cross-platform tool for photo editing and arranging and sort of fixing and that sort of thing on your desktop. And what's great is it's got support for uploading to various services, from Google Photos to Piwigo itself to a bunch of others. But maybe because Immich is still quite new, there is no option to import into Immich itself. So again, maybe that'll come on the Digicam side as well. The other thing I noticed as well is because I was importing, or uploading, should I say, a lot of older photos, and I'd upload the photos. It was actually a collection of Christmas photos over the years. And then what I noticed is I couldn't find the photo. So yes, there is no sort of recent uploads view. Like again, Piwigo will show you, these are the 25 photos you've just uploaded, irrespective of what date, EXIF date or photo date that was taken. it knows that you want to now obviously do something with those photos, put them in an album, do something with them. So what I found though was with Immich, I would have to go down to, 25th December, 22, 21, 20 to go find those photos and move them into an album. So not a train smash, but just again, something to bear in mind, little things that can make your life easier or more difficult. Then it does have for logged in users. In other words, if you've shared to named registered users on the site, they can fave photos and they can leave comments. And I'll show you, I think I'll just try if I can find where they are, but it only shows you at the album level that there's comments 3 and that there's maybe some faves. The problem is, even if you look at the comments, you can look at the activity on the album, which is quite nice. And you can also put a reply in there, but it doesn't, for example, by clicking on it, it doesn't jump directly to that comment or that photo, open it and allow you to reply there in place, should I say. So it's sort of got faves and comments, but not early days, not very matured yet, I don't think. It hasn't got a really good commenting management system, should I say. And I did allude to this a little bit earlier, no slideshow for shared viewers. So that was quite odd. I had shared all the Christmas photos to my wife, and the idea was that we were just going to play that on the sort of the lounge TV then for people when they came around. And I realized I couldn't find slideshow anywhere. I eventually had to log in as myself, as the owner of the album, and there was the slideshow option. So that hopefully is also something that's going to be fixed. I don't see why it's not in, and I did leave a comment on the GitHub site about that as well. Then the other thing there is the external library. So this can be whether it's a Piwigo collection or a collection on a remote drive somewhere that you're hosting, it doesn't matter. You can point to and link to that external library, and then you can start working with it inside of Immich, which is very nice. But it is read-only, and although you can make the volume read-write, Immich is only handling it as read-only. I think it's a safety aspect because it could mean, you could end up unintentionally deleting photos or changing those photos, and it would have implications on the remote repository. So you really either want to use the CLI import option, or you want to upload photos yourself, from your hard drive. With an external library, you're really linking to those photos. It's leaving them in place and read-only. So just bear that in mind. If there's changes to those photos by something else, that can break things or have unintended consequences as well. So I'm not using my Piwigo at the moment while I'm testing Immich out. I'm hoping to use it full time. So I've got a number of my photos still in there. And then just bear in mind, they put warnings everywhere. It is being actively developed. So a lot of what I'm mentioning here, hopefully the chances are that in the next couple of months or so, a couple of these things get addressed. I'm pretty sure it is really updating quite quickly. So, you can fully expect that. Then I just want to highlight, I'll show you these things I'm talking about here in the menus when we get to it. But to mount an external library like a Piwigo library, there is this link here that explains it. But there are essentially these 3 things that you need to have. And I see some people were confused about this. They were thinking it was only 1 or 2 things you had to do. No, you need to do all 3. Otherwise, you're not going to see those library photos. The first is in your Docker Compose file, you need to share that external volume or expose that external volume as a volume that Immich will see. So it needs to be mounted in there, and usually with the read-only flag as well. Then in the administration menu of Immich, you've got to go to users and set the external path to the container's internal path. So when you share this sort of thing in a Docker container, you've got the left side of the volume, which is your Docker's internal mapping. And on the right-hand side is always the external path, where outside of the container you're pointing to. So this internal path, the one I'm talking about here, is what the Docker container is going to see. In other words, what's on the left-hand side of that volume share that you put in the Docker Compose file, the left side. So it'll be the internal path. And that is there at the administration level. You set the external path for this internal path. Then for the user to actually use it, in the user settings, you go to account settings, libraries, and you create an external library, and you will there input the exact same internal path. After that, it's going to start processing and reading your photos. Now, in my case, 13,000 photos. It took about probably an hour or 2 to finish doing all the tagging, the reading, the geolocations, that sort of thing. So you can also check progress status by in the administration menu, that is. So it'll obviously be your admin user, but you click on administration, jobs, and you can view specifically library tasks, I think also geotagging and facial recognition. Each individually, it'll show you how far it is and how many to go. Very nice sort of a status screen there as well. Let's move on then, I think, to my hosting site, and then I can just show you around it a little bit. So this would be what the main screen looks like. And yes, obviously I've just blurred some of the family photos out. But what you can see is I'm logged in as a user at the moment. That over there would be the link to the administration menu. This would be where you upload, and that is where you change the theme from light and dark. And then down on the left side here, this is where you're going to click between photos, exploring, a map view, your sharing links, and we'll go through these just now. Favorites, albums, archives, and trash. Shows you your storage at the moment. That actually, by the way, is not just Immich. That is actually showing the total space used on my VPS. So it's not that it's using, because the photos are not taking up 67 gigabytes, but you can at least see how much is left. And this is the version I'm running at the moment, version 1.91.4. So what's of notice, you've got a search bar along the top. And obviously there's the memories. So that's the other key thing really with Immich. And clicking on those menus will let you just sort of, then you'll see at the top here, it's showing you sort of a progress bar of how many photos there are actually in that sort of sequence, or that collection of memories. So you can just click top left to cancel again. Okay, on Explore, and yeah, unfortunately I've had to now blank out the faces mostly here again, but I'll leave in myself and my wife. It's got already what it has recognized, and you can click on View All on the right, and you can go and just click on them and actually just type in the name and so on and do the merging and that sort of functionality as well. But by clicking on one of the faces otherwise, it will then show you the whole collection or everything that it's recognized for that particular person. So that's the view you'd see. Now again, as I said, you're going to see this as the owner of the albums, but not as a shared user, unfortunately. And then it also just gives you under Explore a couple of photos that are related to specific places by name. The sharing menu is showing which of your albums that you've actually shared. And yes, you can click into the albums if you want to, but if you go to here, the shared links on the top right, it will show you now a list of the various albums, and you've got options here to, for example, set the expiration date. That'll be this little symbol over here. You can obviously delete the share, and you can copy the shared link over there, and that's what you'd share as well. And if I was to go to, for example, this Visit the Back Areas Garden, if I click on this link, it actually goes to the share page. So this would be the link at the top, but you'll see here that on the top right, there's actually no view. You've got a download and you've got a color change. There's no option here for slideshow, no option for sorting or anything like that. And that's all that they're really going to see. They can play the videos. If you hover over the video, you'd see the video playing. But you'll see also no captions. They're not going to see the caption at all either. So let's just go back to the main view. So that was really sharing. And then, yeah, favorites is going to show you what you favorited. But obviously I might have a couple of other photos in there from family, so I'm not going to go in there. Albums will be your albums view. This will be everything that's shared and not shared. So I haven't shared gaming yet, and you'll see it appears there. Yeah, I've only got options to delete it. If you have archived, it'll appear there. If you've sent stuff to trash, it'll appear over there. So regarding now the albums view, this is your various albums. You'll see here, obviously there's an option to create a new album, which you give it a title and a description, and you just select photos, and then you can share and add there. But It's sorted at the moment. The albums themselves are sorted by most recent photo uploaded, I think, into an album. But you can sort by album title, number of assets, in other words, items shared, last modified, created date, most recent photo, and oldest photo. And you can also switch to a list view with some quick actions and so on as well. But yeah, that's really it sort of for albums. I just want to open a particular album as well, which is a visit to the Back Area Gardens restaurant. So what you're going to see here in the album view, obviously, is the title of the album at the top. It shows the date, the number of items. It's got a public, or should I say, a shared link over there, which you could click on. And it also shows that me is the owner, and it's also shared with these other registered users as well, because you can add another user or more users over there. It's got the description over there which you can type in. And again, we've got the view that we saw a little bit earlier, with the video and so on. So this video is playing, for example, live over the internet. I mean, if I was to go into that, it actually plays pretty well. There's no stuttering or pausing or anything there. And obviously the other options you've got down here at the bottom are, there is a like option again, and you can click to say something, like great video. What will now happen is anybody viewing this video, oops, I should show the eye, will see, all they're going to see really is this little comment thing with a 1 or a 2 or 3 indicating that there are comments, and then they need to click on that just to read the comments. Even if you've got the info closed, you'll still see there, it'll show if it has been faved or if it's got comments. But that's about the extent then really of the comment system. They can download as well. That one didn't actually show a location. It didn't obviously grab the location when it did the import. So it was probably an edited video, and that was maybe why. These are photos, by the way, linked to that external library in Piwigo. So these are read-only, but you'll see it has brought all this detail in, including the location. I had to type the description in though. So for my 200 plus albums full of photos that are captioned, that is a problem. I actually don't have a way of importing or uploading those with the captions and inside of their albums. I think there are some rules on the CLI importer that it can take things that are in subfolders and sort of create logical albums out of those. So that, there may be some better way to do it, possibly on that import. And then I sort of show you, while you again got a photo open, it's download, it's toggle this info on its favorite, and you can start a slideshow. You can add this to another. So also what I do like is that a photo can be added to multiple albums. It's not just one album at a time. So it can appear, you can have different sort of collections. Like I had some photos for Christmas photos in a Christmas collection, and I've got them in the family collection. You can add it to a shared album. You can archive it, which means it won't delete. It'll just be put in the archive. This is where you would set a new profile picture. So if you wanted to choose your profile photo, you'd open up the photo, or the photo that's got your face on that you want to use as a profile, and you just say as profile picture. It'll actually take the face part of the picture and put that into your profile photo. This would just refresh metadata and thumbnails again if there was some inconsistency or issue there. For the album image, if you're standing at the album level, which is here inside the album, you'll see here some options are also once again slideshow, but set album cover. And in this case, you would click it and you would basically go down here and choose what picture. Now, if I click on it, you'll see there it says updated album cover. That's how you do the album cover. This download will, I think it zips it and downloads it as one file for you. And the other last option you've got here is an options for the album, which is again really just inviting, but the important thing possibly is whether to turn on and off comments and likes and letting others respond. So that is pretty well much the album view. There is, by the way, also a demo of Immich that you can actually play with and upload files and so on yourself. It's just that I couldn't show everything, like including all the linked library files and that sort of thing, and that's why I decided to use my own hosted site. But I'll put a link to that as well below the video so you can go and play with it sort of more hands-on. Then just before we go to the menu options, let me just show you on Piwigo quickly. So in Piwigo, oh, actually, just let's go up to the top level of my Piwigo site. I've got, okay, some of these aren't going to be publicly visible. Am I logged in? No, I'm not logged in at the moment. This is the publicly visible, what you're seeing. But some of these are collections. So if I go down to the same thing, where's Places? Places is somewhere. There's Places. Places is a collection of albums. So if I click on that, you'll see, obviously, there's the map view again. But here is the back area gardens, James Sedgwick Whiskey Distillery, Chart Farm, Table Mountain, etc. These are all albums in their own right that are nested underneath Places. But if I go into the Gardens one, again, there's the map, there's the description. But you'll see if you hover over the photo, it pops up a preview, and it's also got a caption that you can read as well, which is, yeah, quite sort of nifty. It tells you also how many visits have been made to the photo, and of course it's also got its own commenting system built in. These are actually community plugins that do the pop-ups and the sort of a layout of the photos and so on, but I just wanted to give you an idea or feeling for that. Although Piwigo might not be the most modern looking, it's probably by far still the most functional, especially if you want to do public type albums. So going back here again, let's just have a look at Immich then. There's two parts I want to show. First of all, let's look at the administration menu, and then we'll come back to the user menu. So if you click up here on the top right to administration, you will by default be given the users view, which shows the registered users that you've shared with. So that could be anybody. It requires an email. I don't know that it's actually, I'm not sure. I don't think that it's actually sending alerts to those email addresses at all. I think those are intended more for password reset options. You can toggle whether they're allowed to import or not, and you can edit for that. And that's obviously where you'll create new users. Moving to jobs, this is where I said you're going to see the status of different jobs if they are in action. So generating of thumbnails, extract metadata, library, tasks, sidecar metadata, tagging of objects. This is machine learning because, by the way, you can't add your own manual tags like you can in Piwigo. Your problem with that will be that if it's not something that's visible in the photo itself, say for example, I've got a whole bunch of work-related photos and I want to tag them with work. There's no ways that Immich is going to know that various of these photos are work-related photos. It's just going to look at buildings and faces and objects. So, that again in Piwigo or other photo management systems, you are going to add the tag work or whatever you want to call it, and that'll be a way of you logically finding all those work-related photos or creating virtual albums. Then, smart search, face recognition, transcoding of videos, storage template migration, and migration itself. And you'll see here as well, that was find missing, but if it's for thumbnails, you can say, well, I could say generate for missing. And you'll see there it says it's active, and it would, if it had a progress, it would say how many it's done or how many it's busy with and how many are still waiting in the queue. So this is quite handy to see, what the status is. You'll see there's also a setting up here for managing concurrency. That is for smaller servers like Raspberry Pis and other things. So you could actually say only allow the generating of 2 thumbnails at a time, and none of this other stuff concurrently, just to help sort of spread the server load, that it doesn't kill your server. I think they're giving quite a bit of attention to tweaking and tuning, on performance. So under settings then here on the left, we've just got things again like the job settings. There's the concurrency settings I spoke about. Then we've got library settings, and this is your automatic scanning, your cron job settings for scanning of library changes. It will just, you can decide how often you wanted to check for changes. Then you've got logging, some logging settings. This is still default. Your machine learning settings. So you can obviously enable or disable this if you find it's affecting your performance. These are all default. There is an option to change this to a different address to get more detailed machine learning, but obviously that comes at a price of processing. Then you've got things like image tagging. Again, enable or disable. You've got the smart search options, enable, disable. Your facial recognition. Oh, it might have been this as well. You can change different models as well, and how close you want the matches for detection. So I suppose I could also have tweaked that. You can reset them. Your map and GPS settings. I think I forgot to show the map view. I should still do that when we go back. But on your map settings, you can choose, I think, the type of map, and you can choose a light and a dark style theme as well. I've just left it default. The reverse geocode, I think, is to find this sort of the address, show the address from the geocodes that it works with. I haven't got OAuth authentication set at the moment, but that's where you would set it. Password authentication enabled. Storage template, that is when you're importing, what sort of naming convention does it use for the renaming when it saves the files, just to keep everything clean and organized. And you can see what presets and templates you can change there for that. Then theme settings, if you had a custom CSS theme. The thumbnail settings is the only thing I could find that sets some size options, but you see you're not really finding an option here for the imported image itself, the original. Then trash settings, that'll just be how long to keep it before clearing it, whether you want a version check or not, and the video transcode settings. So it's not very complicated, it's relatively basic. And I see there it has got a target resolution. So you have at least got something on the video side that you can set. I would just like to have seen the same for still images, really. There's your hardware, if you've got hardware acceleration. And yeah, some tone mapping and other options as well. So it's got some quite nice tweaks. Certainly the usability and the graphical side, they've given quite a bit of attention to. Then you've got server stats. That's just your overall stats. So this photos here, I've only uploaded a handful. So the bulk of these actually here are the external library. It's the number of videos. And there is the storage that it's actually using, which is about 8 gigabytes. But that again is actually including the external library. I don't have nearly near that amount uploaded. If your users have uploaded, you can also see what their usage over here is as well. And then there is a repair option. It takes a little bit because it goes to have a check if there's any issues or problems. I've not yet found any. I see they have recently converted, I think, to Postgres databases. But you'd see if there was an issue here and you could choose repair or check or refresh, that sort of thing over there. So that's the admin settings. If you click on your icon over here, you basically can go to your account. These will be your user account settings as the individual user. And the view you're going to see is going to be this really. So you can manage your account, which will be your unique user ID, your email, which you can change, name. The storage label is a sort of a subfolder where it stores all the uploads for that specific user. So in my case, it had already defaulted to admin, but most others it will probably default to their username. And this is the external path that I've added or specified to pull in those photos from Piwigo. And in my case, the internal path was Mount Media Piwigo. Or should I say, sorry, that's where it shows it to you. It's confirming it to you. That's not where you're actually adding it. If you had API keys, which I haven't created yet, that would be under there. You've got authorized devices, and you'll see there's also my Android device. So you can obviously log out of those devices. Here is your libraries. And you'd have a default library, obviously, which is under admin for each user. But that's where my external library is. and that's where you'd create a new one if you hadn't got one. It confirms again the size. So I've uploaded 364 megs myself into Immich, but the external library is 7 gigs worth of data. And if I just go and look at edit import paths, that is where the path is. And you can edit it or add paths and so on over there. Then you've got some settings for memory, whether you want memory, time-based memories on or off. You can also, by the way, under users, I forgot to mention it, but under face recognition, there is an option there to hide faces as well. So those will be hidden from your memories or your albums if there's particular people you don't want to see. You could change your password, and you can set your sharing here by adding a partner if you wish. And then the sidebar, which is what you see up on the left over here, you can display a link to people. I don't know why that was off. I'm pretty sure I had that on. It's over there. And you can also display a link to the sharing location as well. And that is really the user settings. What I didn't show you though was the map. So if we just go back to the image photo view again, if I just go down to map, it's going to show really on a global map all the places that I've got photos, or I've taken photos. So if you zoomed in, I just want to go to something that doesn't have, it doesn't have too many photos, sorry. Let me just say maybe that one. Right. As you zoom in closer, you'll see the photos should sort of explode, I think. But anyway, you can click on it and it'll take you straight into to those photos there, and then you could just move back or forth there. So there's really just one other thing I want to show with photos is your searches. So this is under the machine learning and so on side of it. You can use this M:, with a search term if you want to search for metadata. Now I would imagine that is going to be things like possibly a date, the camera type, lens settings, that sort of thing, maybe even a geolocation, a latitude or something like that. But essentially under the searching for your photos, you can have a look at things like, say, sky, and yeah, it's pretty quick, brings back everything that's got sort of what it thinks is sky, and that's pretty accurate. You can also search for, say, car, and there's car, and you'll see I've got different color cars here. If I was to change that to car red, it brings back everything really with red cars. So yeah, search actually does work pretty well. And that is really pretty well much what I wanted to show about Immich. As I said, here on their website, again, you can see it's under very active development. So expect bugs and changes. So, it's for you to decide if it's ready enough for you to use at the moment. Certainly, as I said, right now, you cannot share your public albums, for people to browse. That is not going to be there. I think a lot of the other issues I've mentioned possibly are going to be, at least anyway, just added, or you'll see some of those features hopefully coming out. But that is the state at the moment as to what you can use with it. I think its big claim to fame really probably is its wonderful user interface that it's got. I think that look and feel is what grabs most people, and they tend to then not worry too much about some of the other details. It's fast, it's slick, it's nice to work with. It works well as well on the mobile apps too. So, I think it's got a lot going for it. And I think if you're looking at the pace of development, it's certainly developing a lot quicker than most of the other self-hosted photo sites as well. So it's very much, sort of give and take at the moment, depending on what you really want to do right now, whether you're ready to start using Immich or not. I'll probably maybe just do an update again in 6 or 7 months, especially if I find that there's some specific issues that have been addressed. Then I'll like to do an update on this video again. But otherwise, yes, thanks very much for watching. I hope you found some interest in it. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in my next video.